Now, 4 years after the United States' most tragic high school shooting by a student, a Florida jury spared shooter Nikolas Cruz from the death penalty. Instead, the gunman who killed 17 people has been sentenced to life without parole. Under the Florida law, a death sentence could only have been handed down if the jurors had unanimously recommended that Cruz should be executed. But he was spared the death penalty because of one juror who refused to vote for execution. The jury's vote was 11-3 in favor of the death penalty for Cruz. The only other option left here was life in prison.
The existence of the aggravating factor, Nikolas Cruz knowingly created a great risk. We, the jury, unanimously find that the aggravating factors are sufficient to warrant a possible death sentence. Yes. One or more individual jurors find that one or more mitigating circumstances was established by the greater weight of the evidence. Yes. We, the jury, unanimously find that the aggravating factors that were proven beyond a reasonable doubt outweigh the mitigating circumstances. No. Signed October 13th by the foreperson.
Now, the jury's decision came after 7 hours of deliberations over 2 days, ending a 3-month trial that included graphic videos and photos from the massacre and its aftermath. Nikolas Cruz had pleaded guilty to the murders in October last year. It was the deadliest mass shooting case ever to reach a jury trial in the United States of America. Meanwhile, family members of the victims from the school shooting are upset and angry over the decision. Many call the verdict, which spared Cruz from capital punishment, as unreal and wrong, while some say that the verdict set a precedent in case of a future mass killing.
We are beyond disappointed with the outcome today. This should have been the death penalty, 100%. 17 people were brutally murdered on February 14, 2018. I sent my daughter to school and she was shot 8 times. I am so beyond disappointed and frustrated with this outcome. I do not understand. I just don't understand this.
This jury failed our families today. But I will tell you, the monster is going to go to prison, and in prison, I hope and pray he receives the kind of mercy from prisoners that he showed to my daughter and the 16 others.
The jury's decision was also a blow for prosecutors who'd repeatedly sought to prove that the crimes committed by Cruz were cold, calculated and premeditated. However, the gunman's lawyer had tried to portray him as mentally ill, a young man psychologically shattered by a difficult childhood, in which he was poisoned by his mother's drinking and substance abuse. Cruz was 19 years old when he walked into the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School and opened fire using a legally bought AR-15 rifle. The shooting reignited debate over guns and prompted a wave of youth-led activism as well. Now, for more on this, we're being joined by senior journalist Ray Locker, who's joining us live from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast.
Thanks for having me.
Now, the verdict is out, and much to the dismay of the family members of the victims, Nikolas Cruz has been spared the death penalty. How do you assess this decision? Do you think that the reason given by the jurors warrants this decision? He was handed the death penalty because one of the jurors was opposed to it.
Well, the county in which this trial happened is one of the most liberal counties in Florida, so it's no surprise to me that there are opponents of the death penalty who live there and who are on the jury. And, I mean, all it takes is one person to keep it from being a death penalty decision.
Right, absolutely. Now, we also know that this brings to fore the rampant gun problem in America. Nikolas Cruz had a legally bought AR-15. What can you tell us?
Well, I mean, look, we've seen this happen time and time again. Look, just tonight, there's been a mass shooting in North Carolina. I don't know many of the details, but there's been another shooting. These happen with AR-15s, with other assault-type weapons. The United States has a gun problem. Everybody knows it. The only reason we don't do anything about it is the influence of the gun lobby and that the control it has over a certain number of politicians. And it's going to happen time and time again, unfortunately, and we've become numb to it. I mean, in some ways, the details of the Parkland shooting have been lost in the fog of all these other shootings.
Right, you make a very interesting point there. Also, of course, some say that this verdict just sets a precedent in case of future mass shootings. So what does this mean going forward in light of all the school shootings that have happened so far this year as well? What do you think of the existing gun laws and such crimes, how such crimes are dealt with?
The existing gun laws can make it very difficult to come to a guilty verdict or a death penalty verdict. We saw in the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse, the guy who shot and killed 2 people in Kenosha, Wisconsin a few years ago, how difficult it is to convict somebody based on the certain laws that you have in various states. And so it's going to keep happening. And juries are unpredictable because you're dealing with 12 human beings. Everybody brings certain ideas to their service on a jury, and you never know what's going to happen until you get into that courtroom and you hear the evidence and you talk to the other jurors, and then all sorts of decisions can happen.
Right, absolutely. Mr. Ray Locker, thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast.
Thank you.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.